Welcome to the Too Fast channel. In today's video, we're going to be upgrading my active subwoofer in my Volkswagen EOS VR6 from the Blaupunk 8-inch to the Boss Elite BE10AE, which is a 10-inch active subwoofer. I previously did a tabletop review of the Boss Elite 10-inch active subwoofer, so I'll link that in my description of my video if you want to check that out. So the VR6 EOS, let's start by explaining what's going on in the trunk of the VR6 EOS. The VR6, because of the size of the engine, has its batteries in the trunk, and what's in the trunk are two 6-volt batteries. So we have one on the left and one on the right. If you have a 4-cylinder EOS, you won't have these humps right here. Your battery would be in the engine bay. So if you were to install a subwoofer in your 4-cylinder EOS, your installation would be a little bit different. Now, originally when I installed this Blaupunk, I thought the 8-inch, it's a single 8 with about an 80-watt amplifier, and it's a vented cabinet. The vent is right up here. I thought this would be adequate for the EOS, but it really isn't. A single 8 just doesn't put out the amount of bass that I'm looking for the type of music that I listen to. And this type of design, this little square, small, self-amplified subwoofer, these things are going the way of the dinosaur. They're almost extinct. Manufacturers are discontinuing them. They're coming up with these shallow designs to mount underneath your seats and so on. So there's not a lot on the market to choose from. One of the criteria I obviously had was I didn't want an amplifier mounted on the back right here. Because there's such limited trunk space in the EOS, I don't want wiring coming out of the back that luggage or other things could be hitting against or dragging on. So one of my key criteria was to have the amplifier on the side of the subwoofer. So you can see that the amplifier is right here. All the wiring is down here, completely out of the way, so I can load up my trunk and not have to worry about hitting any knobs with luggage or pulling out any wiring. When I initially installed this Blaupunk, what I did was I elevated it and I mounted it to the bulkhead with some L brackets. And that was done for two reasons. One, I could put my small little toolkit right here. The other was to create a gap down here so I could remove the spare tire cover and get access to the spare tire. So if this was sitting directly on this cover, I would have to struggle to get this spare tire cover out. But by elevating it, I can store my toolkit there, and I have an easy way to get the spare tire cover out and access to the spare tire. So I don't have to remove the subwoofer. So what we're going to do at this point is I need access to the left side of where the subwoofer is, where my wiring is, because all that wiring's tied up. I may have to remove some of the zip ties to install the wiring on the new sub. These covers there's back here, there's a push pin, a plastic push pin that needs to be removed, and then the cover will come out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do that off camera, and I'm going to also remove the subwoofer, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, so I removed both battery covers, and to get access to the little L brackets I mounted right here. These L brackets actually screw in right here, which is these are factory brackets right here. This is where the little push clip for that cover goes, and a little screw goes right there. So I just removed the screw and I put the L brackets right there, so I didn't tap any holes into this bulkhead. And you can see the wiring as it goes through the ski bag pass-through right there. The ski bag pass-through normally has a cover on it that folds down. Of course, to do this, the cover had to be removed, and it can be reinstalled at a later date. You can also see these are the Optima yellow top batteries that the VR6 uses. Two 6-volt batteries wired in series for a 12-volt load. All this wiring has to do with the sound system. We have the low-level inputs, power, ground, and a remote turn-on. Of course, the power goes directly right here to the battery on the left, and the ground goes directly over here to this battery on the right. That's how you would wire this up for a series wiring configuration. So at this point, I need to test fit the boss and see how it's going to fit and see if it clears the cargo cover, which I had to remove to get access to everything. So we're going to do that, and we'll be back shortly, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so preliminary testing has showed that I can still put something underneath this subwoofer, mount it to the bulkhead, remove whatever I have underneath it, and remove my spare tire cover. Now, unfortunately, the toolkit that I was using on the other subwoofer will not fit underneath this and still allow this cargo cover to move and sit correctly. So I can't put the toolkit underneath there. Right now temporarily I have a box that has a book in it. So it's a nice solid flat surface. Not the best looking thing, but I can probably fabricate something later. But for now, that'll get the job done. So one of the things that, let's see, you can see over here, these brackets, these are the brackets that the covers, the cover actually goes on the outside of this. And the push pin would go through this to hold it in place. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to get those covers on the outside of this. I'm going to have to kind of squish them in a little bit, and they're going to have to run like that, partially covering the amplifier. I think I can move this a little bit to the right, just a smidgen. I can get a little bit of space right here. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put screws through these holes directly into the subwoofer to hold it in place. But that's what it's going to be looking like. So at this point, I'm going to get this wired up, and then I have to test fit the covers and make sure that these RCAs don't stick out too far, and I can get the covers into place. I also have to run the remote turn-on lead through this opening, and so I can mount the remote volume knob someplace. I don't know where that's going to be, but I've got to get that ran through there as well. So that's what I'm doing next. All right, we've got the sub all wired up. I've got the remote base level adjustment wire routed into the interior, power ground, remote turn on, and the RCA's hooked up. And I'm gonna do a test right now, make sure everything's functioning correctly. I think the biggest problem I'm gonna have is getting this cover on. You can see just by looking at this, it's very tight right here, and I'm gonna have problems clearing that. So I'm going to have to fight with this a little bit. The one thing I don't want to do is have to cut these. If it comes down to it, I'll see if I can find some of these out of a wrecked car or buy a new one and cut it. I think the other side will be fine. This one, I'm probably going to have to cut it to make clearance. So I'm going to test this out, and then we'll come back and we'll see if I can actually get this to fit without making any modifications to it. All right, I did some tweaking inside with the sound system. Since this Boss subwoofer has a low pass filter selectable between 12 dB and 18 dB, and you can't turn it off. I turned off the low pass crossover in the Pioneer DEH 1500 NEX head unit. So I got that squared away. I've got the gains set maybe half, 3/4 of the way up. Um, I'm going to have to tweak it a little bit more, but right off the bat, this is 10 times better than the Blaupunk that was in here, bass-wise. The remote volume control for the bass level is working fine. I don't have it mounted; it's just sitting in there. But just preliminary testing. I'm going to have to tweak it some more, probably readjust the EQ on the Pioneer head unit. But so far, greatly improve, a great improvement over the Blaupunk. Anyway, let me get back to trying to fit these covers and see if I can get these covers in, and we'll see what it looks like when I get that done. All right, I finally got this all put back together. What I ended up doing was pulling the subwoofer out so I could get the left side trim piece in there, and then pushing the subwoofer back into place. And the right side trim piece wasn't any trouble at all. So it went in just fine. You can see the wiring is all tied up and routed underneath here. I still have access to gain controls, subwoofer controls, if I need to make adjustments or replace the fuse, the 30 amp fuse. I won't have to move anything around, and it's wedged in there pretty good at this point. I'm going to have to take it all apart again and secure uh, the subwoofer to the L brackets with screws. But before I started drilling holes and such, wanted to make sure everything fit. But it's a tight fit, um, but it looks good. Takes up a minimal amount of trunk space, probably about 5 inches. So I'm losing a couple of more inches of trunk space than the other subwoofer because obviously it's deeper, but still have plenty of usable trunk space for groceries and luggage and such. So anyway, I'll put the luggage cover back on, and we'll take one last look with the luggage cover on, and then I'll wrap this video up. Okay, so we got the luggage cover put back on, and you can see that we've got a minimal amount of clearance with the luggage cover, but it does clear the subwoofer and goes up and down. I could obviously lower the subwoofer a little bit by putting something not quite as tall down here. I don't need to have this much space. I can probably put something a little bit smaller underneath there as soon as I find something more suitable, or I'll make a block of wood and paint it black, put a little handle on it, something like that, and finish that off. But that's what it looks like. So I'm gonna wrap this video up and might do a follow-up video showing where I mount the volume control, but that'll be coming a little bit later. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.